try to do as I talk to people about building this online platform is that try to help people interact in ways they already are interacting. So they're already on Facebook. So to say, interact with each other, join this group, it's part of their daily routine. Going to the website, not part of their daily routine. So if you don't like that option, and you love scripture study group, I've got that for you. So we're doing a 6-session on this Catholic resource called Little Rock Scripture Study. There's tons of scripture studies. They can join a group or they can host their own. These are adults. They run book groups, all that kind of stuff. They can host their own if they chose. So now I have 2 options for doing this. And I did join a study group at church. I picked 4 times. They're all bad, but I picked 4 times that I was available that I thought I could be there. Somebody's got to serve coffee, set up tables and chairs, that kind of stuff. And then my third option is, if you can't do any other ones, here's an on-your-own option. Boston College runs a free online course called The Death of Jesus, 4 Gospel Accounts. It's free. They can watch that themselves. So now I went from just the 4 Thursdays, which, and your only choice was to come or not to come. And now I multiplied those options in March for you to interact with the Passion narrative. This is possible in every single church. And in your role as content creators, you could be recommending the very best content for them. How you doing? Good. It's networked, it's built around people, the motivations from within. You curate great content that fits both theologically and biblically what you hope for in terms of people's growing in discipleship and faith growth. And you put in an option that says, your responsibility to learn and grow, our responsibility to provide the best experiences possible. The digital platform is the in-between, your needs and our desire to help you grow. Thoughts, questions?
Yeah, the thing that I've got going around in front of me right now is a particular bias that I don't know if it's particularly Lutheran, but I've been Lutheran so long, who can say? But that bias being a held belief that unless you're in community, unless you're in a group, and in that community, then how then therefore can faith formation be real? So I mean, that's I picked that up. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one that's seen that or experienced that, but I've understood it to be pretty much a regular bias that we do hold.
Yeah. Do you read?
So this is kind of butting up against
it.
Directly. And so I'm wondering if how much of our participation here is kind of being tempered by that bias.
Well, people always have this, what will happen to community?
Yeah.
I say, well, it's already gone.
That's what I would
I mean, it's already gone.
What community, yeah.
Yeah, it's already, it's like, this is a chance to rebuild it in a variety of different ways. But getting at the learning piece, people always, well, we have to learn together. And I think, well, do you read a book with a group? Every book is a learning project.
Yeah, keep it coming.
Like in the morning, when I pray, it's just me because nobody else, the house is up at 5 o'clock in the morning. But I find that faith forming. I find the books I read in a plane, being probably the only one reading something in theology or ministry on the plane, is faith forming. So would I only want to do that? No. I'd want to mix. Now, do I think Sunday worship ought to be an individual experience? No, because the inherent nature of Sunday worship is the community gathers to worship. So this is where we bring the lens of, there are certain activities, if you will, that we do as a Christian people that we do together. I think Sunday worship is inherently one of those things. So is watching the worship service online as good as being there? Nah. I mean, if you have to, okay, but nah. There's no babies crying, there's no people next to you. It's none of the things that make community, okay? Or make a corporate worship experience. But when it comes to learning, it's a little different because different parts of our heads, our brains are engaged with that. And there's nothing inherent in learning that makes it for a community. Now, all learning is social. So even my individual, if I'm taking this course individually, well, I want that Facebook group to say, hey, I took this course and I learned this. Maybe it's my spouse at the dinner table. I don't know. Maybe it's a half dozen people that, because of my work digitally, I'm connecting, who are all taking this course at their own pace, but maybe they gather for a cup of coffee at Starbucks to share their reflections on it, with me providing the coffee. So I can bring a relational piece into it, but I don't think community, in the sense of the whole corporate sense, it has to be intrinsic to learning. But I do think it's intrinsic to worship. Do you see what I think there's different aspects of this. Now, is community intrinsic to working for social justice? No. But it's nice to be working with other people who are on the same cause, project, or advocacy. But I'll use a service example. Every other Tuesday, my wife, and she used to do this weekly, but every other Tuesday my wife cooks a meal for the women and children at the shelter, the homeless shelter in the next town over. St. Vincent de Paul is a big shelter in Waterbury, Connecticut. Anywhere from 30 to 50 women and children. It's a solo activity on her part. She picked it up as kind of her calling. It was something she could do. Very few people cook a homespun meal for the women and children. She's done this for, maybe 20 years, It's an individual service piece. But she meets with other women who are engaged in social justice activities. I'm going to say monthly, it might be less than that, but to talk, share, connect. So that's the social dimension, not of the activity, but of the need to connect with other people to share experiences. So I think we look for those opportunities to connect people who are having individual experiences into shared experiences. But I don't think it's intrinsic to the learning experience. Does that make sense? Where I think other aspects of church life, intrinsic to the theology, is community. And I think what's happened is because we came out of that older ecology where we were all glued to each other. I mean, so everybody said go left, the whole community went left. Go right, the whole community goes right. Because that was the communal setting. This is really a networked setting. It's different. Is that helpful at all?
Oh yeah, I got it.
Okay. So far so good? You thinking of joining Holy Trinity? Just keep thinking, I got more coming. So Lent was really a busy time for you. You couldn't do something in Lent. That's okay. Because in April, we're doing spirituality. Now you'll notice what I'm doing here. A lot of churches compete with themselves. So they're running stuff at cross purposes with each other. This is, March was Scripture Month. Well, we had Bible studies throughout, but that was our focus. The focus now is on spiritual enrichment. And I'm doing 5 sessions, this was the Catholic example, on 5 prayer practices. Very easy to substitute out the book, which I'm doing is Catholic Spiritual Practices. I can do Ruth Haley Barton's wonderful book, Sacred Rhythms. There's lots of ones I could substitute in for this. Same thing, watch each presentation online or come and be gathered. Because as adults, we're doing a book study group. This one's by Richard Rohr, on the second half of Life Falling Upward. Richard Rohr did a video for me. Well, I thought he did. I guess everybody can have access to it. And describing the book. It's on YouTube. You can sign up for that. Then I got what I call static content. Supportive digital content. Each of those blue things is a link to where that activity resides on another website. Many of those are Bible Faith at Home resources. Okay? Some of them are Loyola Press resources. I don't know if in there, but down here, God Pauses is on there, for example. So these all deepen, come to the program, engage in a small group, deepen that personal experience. So people aren't going to spend time finding this stuff. So I've curated good resources to help develop this. And this is always available. So no matter what I'm doing this in a given month, those resources are always available for people. It's part of the playlist, if you will. Then you take a course with a spiritual master, and this is where you do good curation. I didn't create either of those courses. If you're familiar with the website Spirituality and Practice, I've curated the Spirituality and Practice website. So every season, I'm going to highlight some of their courses. These are adults, they have money to pay for the course. And I'm going to be able to offer them courses. Then they're not going to go to Spirituality and Practice on their own. So I selected some things for them. This is Joyce Rupp's course, Practice of Spirituality. It's an retreat. They sign up for it, it's $39.95. They subscribe, they'll get it as a daily email for 30 days. And then they can make an online retreat at Creighton University using the spiritual exercises. That's free. So what you have is a playlist of spiritual life activities that include on-campus gathered, on your own, small group, book group, watch the video. This is creating networks of faith formation around people. What are you thinking? Pensive. Imagine every church doing this in lifelong faith formation.
John, one of the things that I've thought about this relative to our work as church-wide, one of the challenges with content curation is somebody's got to go through and find the good stuff. You know, so like in stewardship, if you type in the word stewardship in Google, you get about 6 billion things that come back. So what's the good stuff? And as church-wide staff, how could we help to build those playlists so that people in the rest of the church could benefit from those playlists without everybody having to reinvent the wheel?
Some of that's happening, I mean, our Lutheran resource centers, I mean, one of the best Pinterest boards is by one of our resource center leaders that exist. And some of our faith formation leaders are curating.
Right. So finding ways to elevate that so people can connect to it more easily.
Well, going to the Pinterest board through the lens of my people, picking the things I want and putting them on a platform like this that my people can access. That becomes the key. So when we're thinking about network learning, so here's my Holy Trinity family. You really like my church. You're going to really want to be a member. So here's a section just for parents. Parents are a tough group to bring out on any kind of regular basis because they have very complex, busy lives. So don't. Go to them. Go to them. So this section just for parents has 4 things on my playlist for the spring. First Wednesday's webinar series, resources to help them learn more about their kids, a small group study using a book, and an online webinar. So here's the first Wednesday parent webinar series. The subtitle is We Bring the Program to You. Stay home, put your feet up, relax, use your big screen TV. Here's the URL, and I've got a presenter who's going to come to you on a topic that is important to building a strong family life. That presenter can be anywhere in the galaxy as long as they can tune in at 9 o'clock Eastern time. The benefit of a Google Plus Hangout is it's free. People get the URL. I'm online, I introduce the presenter, the 2 of us are online, he or she is presenting. Roughly 45 minutes, there'll be a chat box available where they can interact with that. The last 15 minutes is question and answer. All this is being recorded because it's Google, it's being recorded and create a YouTube video out of it. I now have webinar content that I can use over and over and over again. So, we're going to bring the program to you. If you're busy, don't worry, you can watch it online. In a year, with all these webinar programs, I can create small self-study groups. I can create a multi-session online course. You can curate it in a variety of different ways. I can create a mom's group, a dad's group with this content that doesn't have to fit on the Wednesdays. What I'm going to do in May you don't see it up there because they're going to get an invitation. For all those who have been participating in my webinar, in May we're doing a parent dinner with babysitting. Come, enjoy, eat. That's the community piece. 4 of them have been scattered. The 5th is a gathered. And then if they want to learn more about their children, all this content, all those blue links, all take them to the Parent Further website from the Search Institute. All that content's already available. I've gone there, I picked exactly what I want, and linked exactly to that content. I'm not writing anything. I'm not developing any programming. I'm utilizing the network of resources around me. And now I'm giving parents the opportunity to do what? Pick and choose what they want, when they want, where they want, how they want to learn. Now, if my webinar program is good, parents will talk. Or if a parent is watching the video from last night's Managing Busy Lives at the soccer practice, and other parents want to know what they're watching, I've got a little missional outreach. Because now I've made my campus the soccer field. Or if they're really, put their kids to bed one night and they've got some time, they want to plug in the video, it's available to them. So what I've done in this model is say, how do I broaden my campus to the home, to wherever they are, as well as at church? And you can fill that pipeline with any kind of great content. I got a book study group for parents. I got a video on parenting for the long haul, and I've got some parent resources from the Boys Town Center. That's my spring offering. My summer will be different, my fall will be different. And then some things are just family activities. So we want to nurture family faith transmission. So I have seasonal activities. So every season, we have a focus for the family. So I don't have a dozen things. I just want to focus on one thing each month. So in January, it's serving others. February, it's praying through Lent. And by the way, each of those is an activity on the Vibrant Faith at Home website. So if you've never been to the Vibrant Faith at Home website, you ought to just check it out. There's a couple of, 1,000, 2,000 activities on there that are meant for home use, whether it's families with children, teens, for young adults in their own life, or for adult couples. And so each month we have a theme, we focus on that. What I'm trying to do is bring faith formation to the dinner table, to the home, and reach into that with them. How you doing? You have very pensive faces on. Thinking? Wondering?
I'm thinking about Steve's comment about all this wonderful content.
Sure.
But then in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about the Lutheran lens and the ELCA lens, and how much of that content would pass muster with other people who aren't sitting in this room right now.
Okay, so remember, I'm Roman Catholic. If you think you're institutional, we got there a long time before Luther came along.
I know.
So, I just don't worry about that. Because in the operations of most people, Lutheran content and the rest is so low on their priority list. It's just not important. I mean, I'm the one who's a Roman Catholic. I mean, that kind of thing, it's just, we need to move into this. So when I'm doing something that's doctrinal, oh yeah, you want to make sure you've got good doctrine and content. But is there Lutheran parenting approaches? I think not. So I think in the area you have to separate out what are matters of dogma and doctrine, and what are just matters of good pastoral ministry, healthy development, life skills, that kind of thing. So I don't, I think, I always tell people, give yourself a whole lot of credit for what you know. So, I mean, you know what good Bible study content is and what crappy Bible study content is, okay? So I don't want people going online for Bible study content. That's the last thing I want them to do. I want us to select good Bible study content and then provide a variety of ways for them to interact with them. So I don't think that that's, like in the Catholic world, I just use stuff, when I'm working about doctrinal stuff, I just use stuff from the Catholic bishops. It's from Catholic publishers. It's already been vetted and all that kind of stuff. So no, I've already used that. So there was a lot of digital content, but pretend Spark House had a lot of digital content you could use. They haven't got a lot, but they have some. You already know it's vetted, it's been published, it's good content, it's formatted. So that becomes, in those kind of more doctrinal areas, that's where I move. When I'm worried about Bible content and theological content. But that's just a sliver of what, like spirituality is not as much of it. So once you move off that, it becomes a lot easier. But I just always tell people, everybody here knows how to do the smell test. I don't worry about what people up there think. I worry about, if I think it's good, and I trust my instincts, then you ought to move with those.
John, on the networks, on the Facebook networks, I mean, those are the discussions that take place. I mean, people are always, between the online community. There's
Yeah.
what do you use for this? And,
Yeah.
and what do you suggest for this? And I mean, there's vetting that is taking place 24/7 on the Youth Ministry Network, the Christian Ed Network, with those kinds of questions.
And the other thing about curating is, I think it looks overwhelming as an individual, but I don't think you ever curate alone. So what I always tell people, the first rule of curating is find 5 or 6 other people who curate, who you trust. So you say, hey, I'm looking for a Bible study on, Gospel of Matthew. What are you using? And you get 3 or 4 resources that they have used, that they recommend, and you trust the person. Like, if you don't trust the person, you're not going to trust the recommendation. In the same way, you trust a particular theological author because of his or her reputation, because you've read them. Same kind of thing. So it is that kind of recommendation process. So when I talk about curating, my first stop rarely is to go to Google. I mean, I rarely ever do that. I go to the people that I trust. What are they using? The authors that I know, the publishing houses, people who are already pre-vetted, I guess is the best way to say it. That just saves you a lot of work. So that's why I don't worry so much about what people in authority think about it, because I'm already using stuff that just falls into the key zone. Now, if you have to move some area where you're taking a stance on an issue of the rest, well, then maybe that's an issue we got to talk about. But by and large, that's not what you're doing on a faith formation website. By and large, and you can find. You'll find enough good stuff that you won't worry about the questionable stuff. If you think it's questionable, don't use it, because there's too much good stuff to use. So this is the kind of platform that we start to create in terms of a network approach to faith formation, that we want to address the diversity, we want to address the audience, we want to give people lots of ways to learn and grow, and we want to put our content and our focus. So the key thing here is we want to match great content with people's needs. And so people are creating these kinds of websites, online platforms that integrate what they're doing in physical spaces, online spaces, dynamic content, meaning interactive content, and stable content. And they're using social media where people can talk and connect with each other. I think this is the new world of thinking about church and thinking about faith formation. And it's not about having the whiz-G-bang, greatest website in the galaxy, because the bar for church faith formation websites, heck, for church websites, the bar is really low. I mean, really low. All right? So anything you do that has this more contemporary look, you're way out in front. The other thing I want to talk about, why I think this is so important, goes back to this last slide. I developed this based on the work that people in the education world are doing around blended learning. And so once I'm thinking I have a digital platform, once I think about how to extend it with social media, once I think about this networked approach to learning and putting the person at the center, I now have these strategies for digitally enhanced learning that continues to expand my campus. So everybody in this room can use a gathered program, teaching, workshop, retreat, whatever, that uses online content. Heck, showing a YouTube video is using online content. So embedding online content into a gathered teaching program, that's pretty simple. The next one is the most important, I think, for churches. It's a gathered program, and what I mean by program activity, Sunday worship, children's Sunday school, vacation Bible school in the summer, you name it. Any kind of gathered program in which you don't have much time with people. How do I extend the learning, the experience into people's daily life? So the best thing about Sunday worship, it's an hour. The worst thing about Sunday worship, it's an hour. How do I turn it into 7 days a week?